Good morning, everyone. Hard work isn't glamorous. It's gritty, messy, and often unseen, and that is exactly why it carries so much weight in shaping who we become, because the real work happens far away from applause, recognition, or even acknowledgement, in the quiet hours where you sit with your own doubts and keep pushing anyway, in the mornings when you drag yourself out of bed, even though every muscle tells you to stop, in the long nights when you revisit the same task again and again, because you know deep down that excellence is born not from one big effort, but from countless small ones stacked together. And in those moments when nobody is cheering and no spotlight shines, you begin to understand that greatness is not about appearances but about endurance, not about grand declarations but about consistent action, not about the glamorous peaks but the valleys where you still choose to keep climbing. And the truth is, hard work often looks like repetition, like choosing to do the unexciting thing with precision, like sweating through discomfort when shortcuts whisper promises of ease, yet refusing them because you know the foundation you are building is stronger than quick wins. And while the world may never see the grit beneath the surface, you carry it in your bones, in your resilience, in the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you did not quit when it would have been easier to surrender. And perhaps the most transformative part of hard work is not even the results it produces, but the character it forges along the way, because the messiness teaches humility, the setbacks build resilience, the unseen labor grows discipline, and slowly, through the grind, you become a person who trusts yourself, a person who knows that even in the absence of instant reward you can keep showing up, and that knowledge is power, because the glamorous moments, when they finally arrive, rest entirely on the invisible foundation you built in obscurity. And though hard work may never look polished, though it may carry blisters, sleepless nights, and moments of frustration, it holds within it the raw beauty of truth, that nothing lasting is ever born from ease, that everything worth having demands something of you, and that in the end, it is not the applause or recognition that matters, but the deep knowing that you walked through the grit and the mess. And you did the unseen work anyway. Discipline is choosing long-term growth over short-term comfort, and that choice is rarely easy because it asks us to trade the immediate relief of giving in for the deeper satisfaction of staying true to a vision that often feels far away. Yet it is in these small, daily decisions where our future is written, in the moment we decide to get up when it would be easier to stay down, to practice when it would be easier to rest, to say no to distractions when it would be easier to indulge. And though the pull of comfort is strong, discipline whispers that real growth lies on the other side of temporary discomfort, that progress is forged in the fire of consistency, not in bursts of excitement, because excitement fades but discipline remains, and each time we honor the long term over the short term, we strengthen a muscle inside us, a muscle that teaches us we can be trusted with our own dreams, and trust is everything, because without it, we crumble when challenges come, but with it, we know that even when motivation vanishes, we can still keep moving forward, still hold the line, still build brick by brick, and while comfort tempts us with the sweetness of now, growth offers us the quiet, steady power of later, of becoming, of walking into a future where we are stronger, wiser, and more resilient because we endured the struggle. And yes, discipline often feels lonely. It feels like sacrifice. It feels like missing out. But what we are really missing out on is the regret of never having tried, the emptiness of knowing we settled for less than we were capable of. And so every time we choose discipline, we are not simply saying no to something easy. We are saying yes to the person we want to become. We are saying yes to building a foundation that cannot be shaken by setbacks, yes to cultivating the kind of inner strength that no one can take away, and though it may look quiet, unseen, and uncelebrated, this steady commitment builds lives that stand tall, because discipline is not about punishment, it is about love, the kind of love that believes you are worth the effort, that your dreams are worth the sacrifice, that your future is worth more than the fleeting satisfaction of comfort. And the more we lean into it, the more we realize discipline is freedom. Freedom from being controlled by every whim or craving. Freedom from being tossed around by the ease of the moment. Freedom to rise above and move steadily toward the vision that matters most. And though comfort will always call, though the path of least resistance will always be tempting, discipline gives us something greater. The ability to look back and know we didn't abandon ourselves when it got hard. We didn't trade what we wanted most for what felt good right now. We chose to grow. We chose to endure. And in that choice, we built a life of substance, not by accident, but by intention, not by luck, but by persistence, not by comfort, but by courage. Failure isn't the opposite of hard work, it's proof that you're in the arena, and the very presence of failure in your life means you were brave enough to try, courageous enough to step into uncertainty, and willing to risk discomfort in pursuit of something greater, because those who never fail are often the ones who never attempt, never stretch, never step beyond the safety of what they already know, while those who stumble, fall, and scrape their knees are the ones who dared to fight for a vision that mattered. And though failure can feel heavy, humiliating, and sometimes unbearable in moment, it is in those raw and difficult experiences that the deepest growth takes root, because each setback forces us to confront not only our limitations, but also our capacity to rise again, to learn, to adapt, and to keep moving. And this process builds resilience that cannot be faked, a strength forged only through the trial of falling short and choosing to continue anyway, for every failure is a marker of engagement, a reminder that you are not a spectator in your own life, but a participant fully invested, fully vulnerable, fully present in the battle for your future, and that kind of engagement is rare and precious, because while success might be celebrated, it is failure that refines, that strips away illusions, that tests commitment, and that asks us the difficult question of whether we care enough to try again. And when we answer with persistence, failure transforms from shame into wisdom, from a mark of defeat into a badge of courage, because it tells the world that you are willing to risk imperfection for the sake of growth. And in that willingness lies the very essence of hard work, because working hard does not guarantee smooth outcomes. It guarantees opportunities to discover what you are truly made of, to test your limits, and to discover new paths when old ones collapse. And though failure may sting, though it may leave scars, those scars become reminders of battles fought, lessons learned, and strength gained, proof that you did not stand on the sidelines waiting for life to be easy, but that you stepped into the storm knowing it could break you and still chose to fight. And with every failure comes a choice: to allow it to define you as someone who gave up, or to use it as fuel to refine you into someone who never stopped, someone who understood that setbacks are not the end but the shaping ground of resilience, courage, and ultimate success. And while the world often glorifies the finished product, it is the unseen series of failures behind every triumph that truly tells the story of what it means to be human, to risk, to work, to fall, and to rise again, because in the end, failure is not the enemy of hard work. It is the evidence of it, the shadow that only exists when you have stepped into the light of effort, and the undeniable proof that you are alive, engaged, and daring greatly in the arena of your own life. Rest is not the enemy of hard work, it's what makes endurance possible, because without it, even the strongest ambition and the fiercest drive eventually burn out into exhaustion. And the truth is that real growth does not come from pushing ourselves to the brink until we collapse, but from learning to honor the rhythm of effort and recovery, understanding that rest is not wasted time, but the quiet rebuilding of strength, clarity, and focus that allows us to keep going. And though our culture often glorifies nonstop grind, the reality is that no one can sustain greatness without balance. Because the body needs time to heal, the mind needs space to reset, and the heart needs room to breathe. And when we neglect that, we pay the price in mistakes, in frustration, in diminished passion for the very work we once loved. But when we embrace rest as part of the process, we realize it does not diminish our work ethic, it amplifies it, making our efforts sharper, our thinking clearer, and our spirit stronger. Because endurance is not about going full speed without pause, but about learning how to sustain the journey mile after mile, season after season, without giving up on ourselves. And rest plays a sacred role in that, reminding us that we are human, not machines, that recovery is not a sign of weakness but of wisdom, that pausing to replenish does not set us back but positions us to move forward with greater power. And there is something profoundly courageous about admitting that we cannot do everything at once, that we need to step back, breathe, and allow ourselves to gather strength again. Because this humility protects us from burnout and allows us to keep showing up for the long haul. And the most extraordinary achievements are rarely the result of one relentless burst of energy, but of steady, consistent effort over time, fueled by moments of intentional rest. And when we give ourselves that permission, we discover that rest is not quitting, it is choosing to last. It is declaring that our dreams matter enough to protect our energy, our health, and our spirit, so we can keep pursuing them tomorrow and the next day and the day after that. And the irony is that those who rest well often accomplish more, not less, because they can sustain their focus, weather their setbacks, and carry their vision further than those who burn themselves out in pursuit of speed. And in this way, rest becomes not a retreat from ambition but an ally to it, not a distraction from hard work but a necessary partner. And when we allow ourselves to see rest through that lens, we begin to trust that stillness and recovery have as much value as motion and progress, because both are essential to endurance, and endurance is the only path to the kind of meaningful, lasting success that cannot be shaken. True effort is born from purpose, not just pressure, because while pressure can push us for a moment, ignite a spark of urgency, and even carry us through a single task or deadline, it rarely has the power to sustain us through the long, winding road of real growth. But purpose does, because purpose is the anchor that steadies us when the storm rages, the compass that guides us when the path feels uncertain, and the fuel that keeps us moving when motivation runs dry. And when our effort is tied only to pressure, it often feels like survival, a frantic race to avoid failure, judgment, or disappointment. But when our effort is tied to purpose, it transforms into something deeper, something rooted in conviction rather than fear, a steady, intentional pursuit that draws strength not from what others demand, but from what we know matters within ourselves. And it is in that space that true resilience is born, because a person who works from pressure alone may give up when the weight feels unbearable, but a person who works from purpose will bend without breaking, adapt without surrendering, and persist even in the face of relentless obstacles, because the effort is no longer about avoiding pain, but about embracing meaning, and meaning gives suffering a shape that pressure never can, turning challenges into teachers and setbacks into stepping stones. And while pressure can feel like a chain that binds, purpose feels like wings that lift, allowing us to approach hard work not with dread but with a sense of calling. And when that calling is present, the effort we pour in is not only stronger but also more fulfilling, because we know why we are doing it. We know the bigger picture our sacrifices are building, and this knowledge changes everything about the way we endure the grind, because instead of seeing it as punishment, we see it as alignment, as a reflection of who we are and what we believe. And this is why some people can face the same obstacles yet experience them so differently, because those who operate from pressure alone may crumble under the strain, while those who operate from purpose rise, not because the work is easier, but because it is infused with meaning that makes it bearable, even beautiful at times. And when effort flows from that place, it does more than accomplish tasks. It transforms us, shaping our character, deepening our resilience, and creating a sense of fulfillment that no amount of external force could ever produce. And though purpose does not remove the weight of hard work, it gives us the strength to carry it, and that is what makes the difference between burning out and breaking through, between quitting halfway and finishing the race, because purpose reminds us that we are not just working for results, but for something larger than ourselves, something worth every ounce of effort we can give. Working like hell means giving your whole heart, not just your hours, because true effort is not measured only in the clocked time or the visible grind, but in the depth of intention, focus, and passion you bring into what you do. And the difference between someone who simply puts in hours and someone who puts in their heart is the difference between going through motions and creating something meaningful, because hours alone can be empty, filled with distraction, half-heartedness, or resentment. But when your heart is present, every moment is alive with purpose, and this kind of Wholehearted work is what separates mediocrity from mastery, survival from significance, because it means you are not simply working to finish, but working to build, not simply pushing to get by, but pushing to grow. And the truth is, giving your heart requires vulnerability, the courage to invest yourself fully even when there is a risk of failure, the willingness to care deeply about an outcome that may not turn out as planned. And yet it is this very risk that gives the work its meaning, because without it, the hours become hollow, routine, and forgettable, while wholehearted effort transforms even ordinary tasks into expressions of resilience, love, and determination. And working like hell in this way means pouring yourself into each step, showing up with presence rather than simply passing time, bringing creativity to repetition, integrity to small choices, and courage to setbacks. And though it is exhausting at times, it is also deeply fulfilling, because you know that whatever the result, you did not hold back, you did not withhold your best, you did not live half-ass, leap through the hours you spent, but instead you infuse them with life, with meaning, with authenticity, and that makes the work worthwhile regardless of the outcome, because it is not only about what you achieve, but about who you become in the process. And the paradox is that when you work with your whole heart, you often find that the hours become easier to bear, because passion fuels endurance and connection to the work fuels resilience. And though fatigue will come, it is accompanied by a sense of satisfaction that no shallow effort could ever give. And in the long run, it is this wholeheartedness that builds legacies, because hours are forgettable, but heart leaves an imprint. Hours can be counted, but heart is immeasurable, and working like hell is not about sacrificing yourself to endless labor, but about committing yourself fully to the vision, the process, and the values you hold dear, refusing to coast through life with minimal investment, and instead daring to pour your energy, spirit, and soul into the work before you. And while some may settle for doing just enough to get by, working like hell means rejecting that comfort, choosing instead to risk the discomfort of giving your all, knowing that only in that place does true growth, true fulfillment, and true impact exist.